welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors. We are tribe.co.
Natural sports nutrition delivered direct to you. You can get a free trial pack of 6 delicious energy bars, trail mix, recovery bars and shakes for just £1 by using the code OXYGEN1.
And also Team Oxygenaddict at team.oxygenaddict.com.
Event-specific training plans, coaching guidance from Coach Rob Wilby.
Hello.
He can talk this week, and supportive teammates in a private Facebook group. Rob Wilby, you can talk. This is good.
I am back. My throat is back. I am not ill. It's all wonderful. It's all good in the garden. I was a bit croaky last week, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were sounding a bit ill, to be honest.
Yeah, that wasn't
a bit sick,
so good.
A bit under the weather.
A bit poorly sick, yeah. But I'm all right now. I'm back again. Had the running shoes out today. I had a bit of a disastrous run today, Helen.
Oh no, what happened?
You're going to love this. I went cross country through the fields that I sometimes go through. I've not been through this field for ages. And the farmer's got like a concrete path that he walks the cows backwards and forwards along between the field and the milking shed. So I'm trundling along there, and obviously it's rained a lot, and I thought, bloody hell, this path looks muddy and dirty and
full of
Oh, that's not mud. That's not mud. And it was just 400 yards of like 2-inch deep liquid cow poo. And I got to the end, I thought, I can't turn around. I got to the end of it, and I was just covered in it. I had to stop in the stream and stand up to my knees in the stream and let it all wash off me. It's not good. I was running along thinking, I'm going to have to burn these trainers. I can't take them back in the house in this state. So...
Yeah, I've been there before, and you're just thinking, oh, this is a bit muddy and gloopy, and then, then before you realise it, you're too far in it, and you think, well, I've just got to carry on now, but this is absolutely vile.
It's not good, yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, wash your hands, cover yourself in antiseptic soap, and... So if I'm sounding sick next week, I might have some disgusting cow poo-borne disease, who knows?
Oh. I went to Cardiff Park Run on Saturday.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, I did not run because clearly I cannot run, but I went and I cheered people on, and probably annoyingly for them, I was stood about 500 metres from the finish, and I was saying, you've only got 400 metres to go.
You were that person.
Yeah, but I didn't mean to be, but I was very enthusiastic, and you know, particularly with the people who were smiling at me saying thank you. I was like, you're looking amazing. You know, you're nearly done. Well done. Loved it.
You were that person who gave false information.
I know.
And you know what it's like as well? 500 metres from the end of a 5K, that 100 metres can make the difference between getting there and not, can't it?
I felt bad, but equally I felt good for cheering, you know? Yeah, I didn't quite realise how much further on from the 400 metre sign I had, plonked myself. But never mind, went there, then went and had some delicious kind of croissant thing as a post-cheering recovery.
A post-cheering treat.
Yeah.
Because you're worth it.
Yeah, and then Sunday we did a little bit of mountain biking around... Well, sort of along the Taff Trail in Cardiff, which is clearly not needed for a mountain bike, but that was great. I was liking that bit. Then we went up a little bit of a hill, Rob, and as soon as we went anywhere near up and off road, I was like, I can't do this. I spent more time pushing my bike. I had a lot of fun, but I wish I could mountain bike, and I wish I did have a little bit more confidence to, go with the bike. But no, it wasn't happening. But I had fun.
At least you came back with your knees in one piece. That's the key part, isn't it?
Exactly. Everything was in one piece because I got off my bike.
Good. Well, listen, I'm headed to the lakes this weekend. I'm going up with a mate of mine. We're gonna try and run north to south through the Lake District. How exciting is that?
Are you?
Yeah, we're gonna park the cars at one end of the lakes and get a bus, a proper bus, a red bus, all the way to Keswick, and then we're gonna run up along the Helvellyn Ridge, hopefully, and get back to Ambleside that way.
Oh, that would be amazing! Isn't there is a race that does that, isn't it? It's a day in the lakes or something?
Yeah, so it's a chunk
lakes
of that
day,
basically. Lakes in a day.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was it last weekend or the weekend before? It's usually Kona weekend, I think. So we're basically nicking a chunk of that because it looks exciting and fun. So hopefully it won't be windy like it was this weekend. We won't get blown off the ridge.
Yeah, hopefully Brian will be nowhere to be seen.
Yes, indeedly doodly.
Oh, that sounds great. I like that. Like that plan. Well, this is exciting. I think, Rob, the fell run that I had booked myself into for, what is it, the 4th of November? I think I'm going to give that away. Yeah, gutted. I've entered one on New Year's Eve. That is now my next target.
Is it not happening with the running still? Still not quite there?
No, still not quite there. No. So there we go. Hey ho. Right, Rob, should we start off with some results which are brought to you by wearetribe.co?
We certainly will. So, last week of the sponsorship block for Tribe, so we want to give a big push. If you guys haven't used this code yet, the code will be ending at the end of this week as we record. They are shifting to these packs being £2 rather than £1, so it's your last chance to get this pack for £1 before everything goes up in price. Still a complete bargain in my opinion, but if it's an absolute total and utter super duper bargain at £1. So use the code Oxygen1 at checkout at We Are Tribe and you can get yourself that delicious pack of 6 goodies for just £1. We want to tell you this week about their new Hydrate range, don't we, Hells?
Yep, because it comes in 3 different flavours, designed for the likes of you and me.
Yum.
And yeah, basically Tribe Hydrate is a blend of 7 fruits and electrolytes and botanicals and added to water, and then it provides you with all the natural energy and hydration that you might need for 45 minutes of exercise. And Rob, as we like this, no artificial colours, preservatives or sweeteners are in it either.
Do you know what, Helen? When I was growing up in working class north of Blackpool, I never dreamed I'd one day be the kind of man who drank a drink containing botanicals, but there you go. Turns out I am.
There you go. Like someone
Love
buying
it.
pomegranate seeds, isn't it?
Yum.
That's
what we say. So get yourself over to wearetribe.co, use the code Oxygen1, and it's last call at the Last Chance Saloon to get yourself a pack for £1.
Awesome. So, Rob, one big result this weekend, which we were going to mention, which was Miami 70.3, which was won by Ellie Salthouse on her return. And also Angela Nath was involved there. She came second, and Sarah Lewis of Great Britain was third. So yeah, really good to see Ellie Salthouse back in action. And in the men's race, it was won by Igor Amorelli of Brazil, with Franz Luschke of Germany second, and then Paulo Roberto Maciel of Brazil in third.
Oh, love the accent, Hals. And isn't there something great about looking at pictures of people racing in what looks like beautiful tropical blue sky sun, while we're sitting here with Hurricane Brian blowing around us?
I know. Yeah, it does make you, I just think, oh, I want a bit of that sunshine.
We could do just a little bit of it, couldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. So
never mind, Hal, summer's not far away. Oh, wait. You know what, sun came out today for 10 minutes. Came out for 10 minutes. I pulled my chair out in front of the kitchen, sat out in the sun for a few minutes, having my sandwich at lunchtime. So can't complain. Just got to grab it where you can get it.
I'm liking the positivity, Rob, because I was sitting on my way to work this morning, just thinking, this sodding rain, will it ever bloody stop?
It's going to be nice this weekend.
Oh,
That's what the forecast says, and then it's going to get really cold the week after. So make the most of it, kids.
Great.
Now, somewhere else that was hot and tropical recently was, in fact, the World Championships Ironman in Kona, Hawaii, and brilliant article on try247.com on all of the great British finishers who ended up on the podium. So we couldn't wade through the results last week because we couldn't get the tracker thing to sort itself out, could we? But I noticed, Hells, they've gone back to using the old system on the Ironman website now, so it's searchable again. So maybe there's a lot of complaints about it. Who knows, eh? Anyway, we can now reveal the great British athletes who ended up in the top 5 and got themselves a beautiful wooden bowl. How we pronounce that? Is it Imaki?
Well, you see, we're going to look silly now. Neither of us have one, so
I'm going to say it with humility and say I don't know how to say it, but I'm going to hope it's pronounced Umaki. Yeah, and they get a nice beautiful carved wooden fruit bowl, don't they?
Yep, for top 5, isn't it, in the age group?
Indeed. So, people who won one of these, we had Linda Ashmore, who won the female 70 to 74th category. She did 13:42, and she's got faster for the last 3 years, Hells.
I saw that.
She was an hour faster than last year. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, 15:11 she did in 2015.
Yeah, so that's a nice progression. If she can do another couple of years like that, she might be in the overall top 10.
Honestly, amazing. Ali Rao was the winner, as we mentioned last week, in the 35 to 39 category on her 5th visit to Hawaii. She finally nailed that win, which is superb.
Jane Handsome took second in the female 45 after she took the win last year, and she was just, I think she was a minute and a half short of catching the lady in front of her. So well done to her for battling all the way down the home straight.
Yep, Alison Wilson was second in the female 25 to 29 in 10:06, just ahead of Ruth Purbrook, who was one of our ones to watch for this year, Team Free Speed, who took third in that same category in 10:08.
And Charlie Pennington, who we had on a few weeks ago, was 5th in the male 35. I think he was hoping to go a little bit better than that, but his tweets say he was pretty much well satisfied with giving everything that he had on the day. So well done, Charlie. Good stuff, mate.
Paul Lunn was 5th in the male 45 to 49 in a time of 9:25, and that was his first trip to the Ironman World Championships.
And do you know what? I'm going to go back to Ali Wow Rowett, because there's a great little story here. She, let me get the numbers right on this. She was 15 minutes down on the leader coming off the bike, and she was 38 seconds behind the leader of the age group with 1 mile to go in the marathon.
Yeah.
And she ran him down and took the win. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, honestly, she did not give up until that very, very end.
That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Very impressive.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I loved her interview. If you haven't heard the interview that we did a month or so back with Ali, then go and check it out, because a real character, and so honest about her fear of sometimes in the open water and that swim, and often looking out for the safety kayaks. So yeah, just go back and have a listen.
Yeah, it's good to know that everybody feels the same, isn't it? Even the really, really good athletes have that same fear sometimes.
Exactamundo. Yeah. So that was, honestly, really, really cool. So, great. It's just crazy, Rob, thinking that it was only, I guess when people are listening to this, we're now going to be coming up to 2 weeks ago. But a lot of pros have now written, their Kona blogs, and Nikki Bartlett, who we heard a lot from in the run-up, and we had her being so raw. We had her on, didn't we? The morning after the night before, and she'd written up her blog, and just go and have a read, because that was awesome. And then Mel Hauschild as well, of Australia, who you interviewed around about a year or so ago, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Blimey O'Reilly, Rob, she's had one hell of a year. So for her to even be on that start line in Kona was pretty impressive. So you should, again, read her blog. We've retweeted it on the Twitter account, which is @08Tri-Podcast. Go and read it and just be inspired by all these amazing athletes that we've been lucky enough to have on the show.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, so moving on then to Coach's Couch this week. Coach's Couch is sponsored by Team Oxygenaddict. You can download a free 2-week sample training plan, or get a 4-week sample training plan for just £5. Just send an email to help@oxygenaddict.com for details, and who knows, we might be able to kickstart your winter training this year. Right then, Hells, the Coach's Couch question this week isn't so much of a question, but it's something interesting that came up in our Facebook group this week, and I thought it would be worth chatting about, if that's right with you.
Yeah, go on.
So, one of the guys said he's been in the team for a year. He did all the sort of interval training on the bike all through the winter. Saw his bike get better last year. Saw his run improve as well, but was sort of saying, I've got this question basically. If your methodology was, we're going to get me fitter and faster on the bike by training at FTP, can I do the same for my running? Can I go out and do loads of running around threshold pace and improve my running faster than it's improving at the moment? Because obviously the same theory being, if I can get faster at threshold, I'm going to be faster at every kind of effort for every given pace, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm.
So we had to kind of go back to basics and sit down and go, the reason that I talk about mainly running steady and running easy in your training plans, especially during the winter when you're doing lots of threshold work on the bike, is that, and I think the confusion came in because, again, a really common thing that he said was, I've been talking to this friend of mine who's a runner. He's a pure marathon runner. And he said, yeah, I do 2 threshold run sessions a week. They're my kind of go-to sessions. And I can't understand why your coach hasn't got you doing this hard running. It's the key thing that helps me improve. So obviously he was really keen to get out and do some hard running in the threshold sessions to improve his marathon. And the reason that I advise people away from that is because I think there's a limit to the amount of threshold training sessions that a body can do in a week. And so your average runner is going to do 2 hard interval sessions a week and then lots of other steady sessions. I think the danger that we face as a triathlete is when we come in, and I think this happens a lot with club triathletes, the club is coached by lots of different people and the different sessions might not coordinate with each other quite as well as you might hope they would do. And in an imperfect world, you might end up going to a few club sessions and getting given a threshold run at the club track session, a couple of threshold bikes at the club spin or turbo sessions, and a couple of threshold swim workouts at the club swim sessions. And taken individually as individual sports, that would all be fine within a bigger picture. But when they're mixed in with virtually the athlete ending up with 5 or maybe 6 threshold sessions every week, the overall effect on them is it's going to make them absolutely whipped, and the overall fatigue is going to make them really, really tired and just unable to do any kind of training satisfactorily. So yes, there is this argument to be made that you are going to improve your running by running at threshold. But I think for a triathlete, the bigger picture is we need to look at how you're going to get the best overall improvement to your triathlon time for the amount of training that you've got to do. And really, because the majority of your time is going to be spent racing on the bike, or the biggest amount of time you'll spend on race days racing on the bike, you need to spend the threshold sessions for a good block of the year at least focusing just on your bike. And the reality then is you probably haven't got any more ability within your body to do any more threshold training sessions in a given week. Now, again, this comes with a caveat of it doesn't hold true for every single athlete, because we all know examples of guys and girls who can smash themselves every single day of the week and seem to be fine. But that isn't the case for most people, especially when you layer on, like we've talked, haven't we, Held, about the difficulty of juggling work and with training and how just work stress can be a bigger stress on its own.
Oh yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So that's my encouragement to everybody is firstly, consider that work and life stress that you've got going on. And there might be days when you just simply can't do the hard training. Do them on the smartest days that make sense. And don't be afraid to swap your training around if it turns out you've had a really stressful 14-hour day in the office. But then after that, look at the bigger picture of a triathlete and think, right, I need to do this for a block, and then I can focus on that for a block. But you will definitely see that your running improves as a byproduct of your overall cardiovascular fitness improving due to those threshold training sessions on the bike. And as a triathlete, you're going to get that biggest overall improvement, I think, for your training by doing your hard work on the bike for this block of winter time when the nights are short and you haven't got much time anyway. So hopefully that makes sense.
And Rob, we've spoken a lot before about, your easy runs really should be easy.
Yeah.
And I saw something on Twitter actually this week. Lindsay Corbin, who's professional triathlete, she's won various Ironman races and 70.3s, and she says here, someone was asking how easy should easy runs be, as easy as they need to be. She says, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see. Make sure the easy really is easy. She says here, we jog 8 to 9 minute miles, no shame.
There you go. I mean, it's really great to see more athletes talking like that, I think, because it'll help people give themselves the permission to, if more people gave themselves the permission to go a bit easier on their easy days, they find they could go a bit harder on the hard days. And I always go back to my old story about I used to do a bit of running with Dave Norman occasionally, who was a 2-time winner of the Manchester Marathon. Not liking the hard stuff he was doing, but on the easy days, we'd go for like the club long run in Altrincham and Timperley. And I found myself thinking, this is great. I'm running with Dave Norman. He's a 2:18 marathon runner or something. And we're running along, we're chatting. And that made me think, well, actually, if he's doing his long runs at this pace, maybe I'm going too fast. And we were only doing 7.5, 8-minute miles, which was pretty conversational pace at the time. But yeah, they probably were at the faster end of my, what Jack Daniels would call the e-pace runs. So for anyone who's not heard of that, if you go and check out the Jack Daniels pace calculators online, they'll give you a really specific zone to train in for the e-pace. And he calls it easy pace, but it's probably more accurate to say E stands for endurance. And it's a zone of about 35 to 45 seconds a mile. And don't think you have to run at the fastest end of that zone. It's just as beneficial to run at the slower end of it. Plus, you get to run with a variety of different people and you get to have a chat as you go along as well. So just give yourself the permission to back off the gas a little bit sometimes during the week, and you will see the benefits in the bigger picture.
Awesome. Shall we move on to the interview of the week?
Oh,
Rob?
yeah, let's do it, Hells. This is brilliant. Tell us who you've got lined up.
Well, this week's interviewee is Sarah True, who is an American triathlete. You will probably have seen her. She finished 4th at the recent 70.3 World Championships. She just missed out on a podium at London 2012. Couldn't quite hang on to the likes of Spirig and Lisa Norden. She was 4th at the Rio Olympics as well last summer. She has been around for quite a number of years, and it was fascinating talking to her about making that switch from the world of ITU to slightly longer distance, and I guess life as well away from triathlon. And she'll open up, you hear it as well. She talks about some of the mental health issues that she struggles with. So a real fascinating chat, and I feel very honoured that she was so open and happy to talk to us, basically, Rob.
Okay, here we go then. Here's our interview of the week with Sarah True.
Sarah True, hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. How's life in autumn over in the States?
Oh, it's one of those perfect autumn days where you just wish it could be this way year round. It's absolutely perfect outside. Yeah, life is pretty good. Thanks for asking, Helen.
No worries. And have you done a bit of training today?
Yes, I did an open water swim this morning. We have a lake that is no motorized boats, all these little islands, and the foliage is starting to turn. Absolutely still water. The loons were popping up, having conversations with each other. It was just one of those magical open water swims. A lot of the time you go out there and you're just kind of cold and miserable open water swimming, but every once in a while you just have days where you think I could do this for hours. I didn't. I only swam. Yeah, I only swam for about 40 minutes, but I'd like to think that I could swim for hours.
So take us back, Sarah, because you have been in the triathlon game for quite a while, haven't you? How did you get into it in the first place? Because weren't you destined to sort of be a lawyer?
Yeah, so I had done a couple of triathlons in high school and university, just for fun. I think, like most people, you do a couple and you start looking forward to the next year, maybe doing a couple more. And with my graduation of university pending, I had a decision of whether or not to apply to graduate school, or I had this far-fetched notion that, I'm really interested to see if I could be any good at this sport. Really, I had no reason to think that I would go to the Olympics, I would race professionally. But I just kind of wanted to see if I could get better. I gave myself a 2-year window, and at the end of those 2 years, I was racing full time. I could give up my side gigs of bartending and washing dogs and things that I had to do to kind of sustain this lifestyle. And next thing I know, it's been over, I don't even want to know how many years, because that puts a age on me. But Yeah, it's gone by so quickly, and I'm just blown away by what an amazing experience it's been.
Did you get onto the US Olympic program pretty quickly then during that 2-year period, or were you focused a bit more at that time on 70.3s and things?
So at the start, I basically was just racing to be able to pay for my rent. And it was a mix of, I did some ITU races, I did some non-draft races. You know, at that time we had a really healthy Olympic distance non-draft series in the US, and I was basically just kind of getting into whatever races I could. I was fortunate to work with Siri Lindley early in my career, and she was a former ITU athlete, and she really kind of pushed me in that direction. And it really wasn't until 2008 I nearly made the Olympic team for the U.S., and it was a total surprise, at least for me. And I walked away from the experience saying, you know what, this is actually something that I can achieve. I'm going to take 4 years and try to make the Olympic team, which I managed to do in 2012. And basically from 2009 forward, I started to think of myself as a potential Olympian. But I didn't get into the sport thinking that was going to be in my future.
When you made that team then for 2012, can you remember how you felt when you found out?
So for our qualification system, the first automatic qualifying event was the test event in 2011 in London, and we had to be top 8, and up to 2 women could qualify. And both Gwen Jorgensen and I were top 8 that day, and it just, more than anything, it's just this sense of relief that, oh my goodness, this goal that I've had for the past few years, I did it, I qualified, and now I have a year to get ready. But yeah, it was definitely an incredible feeling to qualify.
Do you remember the race, or do you try to forget little bits of it? Because for people who might not be totally aware, basically towards the end of that run, there was a group of 4 of you, a bit like what happened in Rio with Non as well, just missing out. That happened to you at London. How do you look back on it now?
So the good thing that you realize with age is that time really mellows everything out. So, immediately after the race, it was very bittersweet. It was hard for me to look back on that race with tons of pride. But now with the benefit of time and benefit of, that distance, I'm really proud of that race. Because at the end of the day, okay, yes, I would have loved to walk away with a medal, let's be honest. But with 1K to go, there were 4 women vying for an Olympic medal, and I was one of them. And to put myself in that position, I'm really proud of that. And trust me, I wouldn't have said that, right after 2012. But like I said, time definitely has a good way of putting things into perspective.
What about Rio? Because again, that was a real pants episode for you.
Yeah, so that was a totally different scenario where, I walked in, I walked away from 2012 saying, I want to fight for a medal in 2016. And, you go through all these scenarios in your mind. I showed up wanting to fight for a medal in Rio, and the scenario I never had. You think about flats, you think about crashes. I never would have thought that I would get out of the water and my leg would spasm, and that would just be it. That would be the end of my race, that there was nothing I could do. And you definitely never in a million years think that you're going to have to pull out of the biggest race of your life. It's something that, I'm proud of the process that got me on the team, because, you know, the US, like the UK, really, really hard teams to make. So the bar was set very high, and I met it. But that one's going to take me a really long time to kind of wrap my head around, to be honest. It was extremely hard year going into the race. It's been a really hard year coming out of it. The bright side is that it's kind of pushed me towards 70.3 racing, which I've found a new love and appreciation for my sport, which, you know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise in that way.
Were there times in the past 12 months where you thought, I've had enough of this?
Oh, absolutely. So, I've been a person since I was a teenager who has struggled with clinical depression, and you know, I've started to be a little bit more open about that, because I think it's important that athletes talk openly about these things. Just kind of normalize it a bit. And the past 12 months have been really hard. Anybody who's struggled with this sort of thing, you know that it's not just sport. You know, it's not just that I felt really bad about the sport. It's your self-value. You don't sleep at night. You get 3-4 hours of sleep. Triathlon was the last thing on my mind. So it wasn't just, it definitely, so it's not as though, I DNF'd at Rio and it made me a depressed person, but it definitely brought up some things that I will always have to contend with and have to find, and it's been I wouldn't say interesting, but it's been an ongoing process to try to work through some stuff.
A few weeks ago, you put out a series of tweets, didn't you, actually, which they were really, really interesting points that you were making. So for people that might not have seen them, just go through again what they were.
Yeah, so basically the backstory is that, I think we kind of talk about depression and depressive episodes with athletes. And I know, in the UK it's been a bit more in the forefront with athletes. Somebody like Dan Kelly Holmes, coming out and speaking about her experience. But there's really I found there's been no practical guide, for lack of a better term, for athletes specifically, but just people in general. So generally when we talk about, mild depression, mood disorder, the recommendation is, okay, get exercise, have a healthy lifestyle, that will help. But what do you do when you're in the middle of depressive episodes? And the things that kind of help regulate your mood are totally, it's hard for you to wrap your mind around. Just getting out of bed is hard for you to wrap your mind around, let alone going out and training. And I think the good thing about my experience is I've had to learn coping mechanisms for those periods, for those deep depressive periods, where the hardest thing, I think, is giving yourself permission to kind of step back from your training. And because really it's about management of stressors. And if you continue to add stressors onto your life, it becomes incapacitating. I mean, depression in of itself feels incapacitating. So I think I just basically wanted to give some sort of practical information that has helped me. I think the people we love around us, they want to help, but you need to reach out to somebody who has training. That's been huge in my life. That's been huge in my career. I had a coach who was not very good with dealing with mental health issues, and he actually made things quite a bit worse. And, you know, I should have left his training group long before it reached that point. But, you know, just realizing that we have to give athletes permission to do things that are going to be better for their mental health. And yeah, hopefully, actually, I was nervous to put this stuff out there because, you know, you don't want to make yourself vulnerable, but this is something that, you know, millions of people deal with. And there's definitely a crossover between the people who are attracted to endurance sport and, you know, the positive impact that exercise can have on mood disorders, and, you know, that prevalence of depression. But it also can be a double-edged sword, that, you know, we don't do a really good job of helping people through those really dark periods. And, you know, if I can be another voice in the chorus, then I've done my job.
Why do you think that there is such almost like such a rate of depression amongst athletes? Or is it that just much more recently, say over the past 12, 18, 24 months, that we've actually been hearing about it? Or do you think it's the high pressure environment that athletes live in, and there's probably so much pressure?
Oh, well, so it's both. It's both. I think, you know, from my experience, having a mood disorder, exercise has helped. But definitely the stressors involved with high performance sport has increased the prevalence of depressive periods. So, you know, while it's helped stabilize me, like the past few years, the number of stressors that have been a result of high performance sport have definitely increased the number of depressive episodes I've had. And so there's that piece, but there's also the piece that, you know, there's just something about, like, so it's always been there. It's always been there. I think if we look historically, the number of athletes, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I don't have training in this. I just want to put that out there. But I mean, if you look at like the number of professional athletes who retire and they have extreme difficulties in transitioning to a life outside of sport, I think that's where we see the depressive tendencies kind of come to the forefront. Because there are quite a few athletes who will turn to substance abuse, who turn to, you know, risky behavior after, and this is their life outside of sport, who take their own life. And it's not because they stopped doing sport as much as probably like there was something already latent there that being active helped kind of keep in check. But then there's also the transition piece to like totally changing your self-identity and the lack of ability to cope to that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. We could have a very, very long podcast.
We can.
But it's important, and I think what's ultimately, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this was that I just think of, you know, 17-year-old Sarah, like, I thought that I was a total failure, that I would never succeed in sport, I'd never succeed in anything, because just the way I saw myself was just, I knew that something was deeply wrong. And this is when we're talking in the middle of like a depressive episode where you just feel that you have no value. And, you know, even as recently as July, like I went through a major depressive period where, I mean, to be totally frank, that, you know, I was having suicidal thoughts and like, it was a very dark place. I'm really fortunate that I've developed these skills, but it's taken me half of my life to develop them. So if I can take it, you know, little tidbits of what I've learned to be able to get me to the point where I know that these episodes end, Like, sometimes you have to force yourself out of them. You need help to do it. You can't do it alone. But that feeling of helplessness that people have in the middle of a depressive episode, like, just if you know, the more voices we lend to this, people know that they're not alone, that there is a way that it will pass. It doesn't matter how terrible you're feeling. Like, if I'd known all this stuff when I was 17, I'm not going to say my athletic career would be different, but how I view myself would be totally different. And I'm just really fortunate that I've had good people who've been understanding, who've helped me through this.
I guess one of those is your husband, Ben.
Yeah. So he's not the best at this sort of thing. But I've finally found a coach over the past year who really understands this. I mean, I've had a couple coaches along the way who've, even if they weren't directly working with me, they've identified this piece of me and they've helped steer me in the right direction. And I've worked with a psychologist for the past few years who's been absolutely amazing for me. It's like I said before, I think we have to be careful about, like, there are some things that your loved ones want to be there, they help, but they're not the best people to give you advice when it comes to mental health, unless they're a trained professional, honestly. So I think these are the sorts of things where I would like to see more coaches getting more information about mental health and trying to be there, not necessarily as a mental health professional surrogate, but somebody who can kind of steer you in the right direction, who can start identifying patterns and behaviors that might be, if not alarming, at least something that needs to be addressed. So I think we do a woefully inadequate job of providing coaches with that side of things, because ultimately we're dealing with people, like, athletes are just people. We're not machines. And, we create this narrative that, we're tougher and stronger than the average person, but we're not. And I think we really need to arm our coaches with better tools to be able to deal with that side of things.
You mentioned you're working with a new coach, and you mentioned that switching to 70.3 again has kind of given you that, like, reinvigorated your love for triathlon. So how's that all come about?
Yeah, so I did a 70.3 the end of May, and it was kind of a let's just jump into it, let's see kind of thing. It was a test. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. And I walked away and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge that it was a totally different atmosphere from doing ITU. Different people, I had no pressure, no expectation of performance. It was just doing triathlon for the love of triathlon. And it'd been such a long time since I felt that way. And it took me until basically another month to decide, okay, I'm all in, I'm switching, this is it. And it's a new challenge. The training's different. I think as I'm getting better, I'm starting to have, more expectation, but it's not the same as, the Olympic grind is totally all encompassing, and it has to be. And this is different than that. This is, for me, at least, it feels more balanced. It feels more healthy. I don't have to travel around the world. I can have a bit more of a, quote unquote normal life. And I missed that. I missed that. I've missed actually seeing my husband.
Because wouldn't you go like phases? Because he's an elite track athlete, isn't it? Wouldn't you go through phases of like not seeing each other for kind of 9 months or something crazy, because I guess you were traveling loads and he would have been racing lots?
Yeah, no, we not quite 9 months, but yeah, there have been years where over half the year I have not seen him, and I think one of the challenges of having two athletes in two different sports is trying to how do you support somebody else when they're doing something that's a completely different pursuit. And the truth is we basically just had to let the person go around the world doing their thing, and you kind of take care of yourself. And that's hard on a relationship. No matter what, that's hard. I think, people who are in couples where both are very focused, motivated professionals, there's overlap there. It's when your job becomes, your primary driver, it's hard to really make room for another person. And I know this is a common thing, but it's kind of nice to take a step back and actually get to spend some time with them.
It's unique.
yeah, it's good.
How was Edinburgh? Because Edinburgh 70.3, because you raced that one, didn't you? And we saw lots of photos of the water, and it looked pretty choppy, and the course was it was a toughie, wasn't it?
So I do have to say, I learned something this year the hard way. Okay. Basically, I realized if I wanted to try to qualify for 70.3 Worlds, I wanted to ensure that I was going to get in. And the only way I was going to be able to do that was squeeze in the last two races in the qualification system. Because for pros, we have a point system. And, I had no races to my name, basically. So looking at the calendar, okay, I have a month. And in order to qualify, I have to do Mont Tremblant, and then the next week fly over to Edinburgh and do Edinburgh. And let me tell you, doing 70.3s, two consecutive 70.3s is a terrible idea. I do not recommend it to anybody. But if you're going to choose one, Edinburgh is the last one you want to choose. I mean, the water, they shortened the swim in half, which was actually disappointing for me because that was the best part for me. And it just went downhill from there. Actually, I should say it was rolling, headwind, misery the rest of the time. I mean, it was stunningly beautiful course. Yeah, I would like to maybe do that race fresh, but I just remember getting out into the bike and I'm a few miles in thinking, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to race for 4 more hours? Yeah, that was a rough one. Dave McNamee had a flat and he was on the run course, and I ran by him and literally asked him, Dave, what the heck was I thinking? This was a terrible idea. And he's just laughing at me because he's a Scot. So he's like, you are so weak. Like, come on. What is wrong? You signed up for a race in Scotland. Clearly the conditions are going to be really hard because Scots are tough as nails. And so I learned my lesson. Scottish races are really hard. And they're like a multitude harder when you try to do them after another hard race.
So sleep deprived as well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, jet lag. Oh, and my wallet was stolen that week. I mean, it was just a whole confluence of terrible things, but yeah.
But it did do the trick, because fast forward another couple of months and it Chattanooga and another 4th place. What did you make of the world champs?
Oh, man. So, first of all, kudos to WTC for having separate days for racing, for women on Saturday, men on Sunday. Yeah, I think that was a fantastic decision on their part. I really felt like, because it was fun, to be able to spectate the men's event, and I wouldn't have been able to see that. And we actually had spectators out for our race, and they were watching us, and we got, equal media time. It I knew it was going to be really hard. And it was exactly that. It was thankfully not as hot as we thought it might be. That would have been pretty much, I wouldn't say the end of me, but I'm not a heat person. No, I was pleasantly surprised by the outcome. The bar is high, and it's getting higher every year with the women's racing. So to be able to finish fourth, yes, I could have used a few more months of bike work in order to be strong enough to be able to run hard off of it. But I exceeded my expectations, to be honest. And there are times where fourth place is pretty awesome. I would have loved to be on the podium. Don't get me wrong. I didn't. We'll put it this way: the day before the race, I thought, I am going to embarrass myself out here. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've had terrible, because I had a kind of a rough prep period. It was less than ideal. Just trying to wrap my mind around all these things. And finally, you get to the point where you're like, you know what? The only way I'm going to find out is if I just go out there and race. And maybe I'm not ready. And maybe my prep hasn't been good enough. But there's nothing you can do. And that's pretty much the mindset I had. So, I'm glad I showed up to the start line the next day.
It sounds like the kind of doubts, though, that go through so many of our minds, that that race seems quite a while away, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm feeling amazing, and then things just happen in those last few weeks, and then the doubts creep in, and it's really difficult to get your head in the right place to go, it's fine, you'll be okay.
Yeah, well, because I think part of it is just realizing every athlete. Okay, maybe there's some athletes out there who have zero doubt in their minds.
Yeah. One or two.
But,
but not that many.
But not that many. And it's just kind of flipping it around and realizing that that's normal. We all have our doubts and our insecurities, right?
Yeah.
Some of us more than others, but you just deal with what you have, right? And one of the things I have learned that's been a huge positive is that there's nothing you can do on race week other than you can make things worse for yourself. But you just kind of get to this place where you learn to just accept, and you just have to wrap your head around that acceptance piece where it's like, you know what? It is what it is, and there is nothing I can do about it. And that's really calming to me, is there's nothing I can do at this point. I just have to make sure my gear is in order and that I don't sabotage myself. Because, you're not going to make any fitness gains.
So true. It's so true. Do you think then next season, will 70.3 Worlds be your main aim for next year?
Oh man, I would love to. So I definitely want to do some more 70.3 racing. I have to make some gains on the bike before I consider an Ironman, but I do have interest. I do have interest because that's how our sport started. And I feel like, I don't know, there's a piece of me that's very intrigued, but the bike just seems so long. It just seems so long.
My top tip for you here is don't come and do Ironman Wales if
I don't know. I'm gonna pick something like Florida.
Wales is amazing for so much, but if Scotland wasn't quite, Wales and Scotland would kind of be on a par for toughness. So just don't pick it as a debut.
Well, okay, maybe I won't do a race right beforehand, because I think what I do like I like that it's not hot, because I don't like the heat. So that's something going for Wales. And it's rolling hills, so it breaks it up.
Yep.
So there's that. I don't think you can really necessarily go for insanely fast times on a course like that.
Correct. No, less pressure.
Less pressure. And you walk away realizing that you're super tough. Yeah.
Put
Well
it on
done to
your
anybody who's
list.
done that course. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold.
Okay, I'll work on that one for you.
But I'm sure it's beautiful.
It is. You get a nice day there. It's the best place on planet Earth. Right. Why is the American female triathlon team so strong at the moment?
So, okay, part of it is our federation does a really good job of finding talent and cultivating talent. So, they have a kind of fast track talent ID program that has turned out, most of these women that you're seeing, and they are, and part of it's also our bar has been raised. So, what success breeds success. And I think we're seeing that play out where we're no longer content with a top 10. It has to be a podium. And I think, it's kind of broken some of that complacency that we had for a period of time in our program. So it really is twofold. It's what we're doing to find athletes and then get them up to world-class status, and then just the expectations that we have for what high performance is.
Do you think the governing body maybe looked over the ocean and thought, how the heck is Great Britain, such a small island, so damn good at triathlon?
Yeah.
We better up our game,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that is pretty interesting to see is how it kind of shifts. Different countries go through different waves where, traditionally it was Australia that was the powerhouse, and, a while back it was the US, but then we had kind of a down period. And then, the British women were all totally on fire, and now the U.S. women have kind of come back. So it is interesting. It's just how do you have long-term that level of success? And
I don't think you do. I don't think you don't, do you? Because
it comes in waves.
Yeah,
right.
Look at any sort of soccer team or any kind of sporting activity. Sometimes a particular team is the best. You'll always have one which is kind of there or thereabouts, year in, year out, and then there's almost like a good crop, a good few years, and then they have a bit of not such a good few years, and it just goes up and down, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think that's definitely, right now we just have a period of where we have quite a few good women. There's also a financial aspect to this. So as the ITU has gone to more and more expensive cities to host WTS events, it shifts the cost onto the governing bodies. So if you have athletes who are racing, next year in Bermuda, for example, it's a very expensive place to travel to for racing, and then to put up your athletes. So what you are seeing is that the federations with more money are getting better results, in part because they have the money. So the U.S., we are, our travel is paid for. We can go to all these races. The U.K., it's a well-funded program, so their top athletes can go to all the races. I think we're going to start to see a real separation between the well-funded federations and the less funded federations. As people get closer to the Olympics, they start to inject more money into their programs, generally, but it's going to be a problem for the ITU because they continue to shift the cost onto the countries, and it is creating some disparity that I don't think we necessarily saw 10 years ago.
That's interesting. And then it makes the sport kind of more elitist.
Yes, absolutely. And that is my concern, that a lot of these places are very expensive to get to, and the calendar does not make it conducive to budget travel. Not just, if you go from North America back to Europe, over to Asia, just, you have to, the flights alone, each athlete is going to need probably $20,000 to $30,000 travel stipend. And how many countries can afford that?
Yeah, when you add it all up, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, US, we're really fortunate because we have our travel paid for, but most of the federations, they're not getting full travel. I mean, the one exception to this whole rule is like the Spanish Federation doesn't have a lot of money. So a lot of these races, they're self-funding. So they're kind of the exception to that, because obviously, Mario and Javi have done a tremendous job. But by and large, I think we are seeing a correlation between well-funded federations and results.
That's really interesting. I want to ask as well about Gwen. When you come out of T2, right, are you just thinking, oh, where is she? When's she going to be flying past? How do you cope with such a gazelle of a runner, like a machine?
It's interesting because racing is just ultimately, what can you do best on the day? And, the ideal scenario, of course, is what Flora has been able to manage, which is get a minute and a half time buffer off the bike. And we've always known that. Like, we know what the strategy is. We haven't been able to actually implement it. So you know people's strengths and weaknesses, and your best chance for getting a good outcome is if you don't get off the bike with somebody who can run a 32-minute 10K. It's very matter of fact. So you can't react emotionally. It just shifts it. If you're coming off and it's, all right, what is the best race that I can put together today? And just, the people who are roughly equivalent to you pace-wise, and you try to work off of them. And, I'm not going to necessarily go out with somebody who's a lot faster than me on the run, because I know my limitations.
When this is probably a really random question, but yeah, in races where Gwen has come past you on the run, right? Are you so focused in your own world that you just think, right, that's someone going past? Is there a bit of you that thinks, my God, her running style's so good? Or are you thinking, what's going through your mind when she does come past?
No, because there were races where we've been able to kind of hang for a while. But I mean, it may be 5K out of 10. So you're just thinking of it as another body. I mean, I think we wouldn't be racing at this level if we didn't think that it was possible to beat somebody, right?
Totally.
Just because it didn't happen doesn't mean I don't think that it's possible for. Okay, at this point I'm doing 7.3, so it's a totally different world. But yeah, no.
There's no point in doing it without that belief.
Totally. Yeah. So that's what's so fascinating about like this, the psychology of high performance sport is, I mean, you can have somebody like me who, both thinks that they can, believes that they can win races, but then also just does not have good self-esteem. Like, so that's what's so weird about this whole thing, where like you can contain multitudes, and that's high performance, and that's, as an amateur athlete, I think it's all across the board, and it's just kind of wrapping your head around. There's no fixed definition of what it is to be an athlete.
This is very, very true. Yeah, I don't know. There isn't, is there?
No.
No. Wow. We're going deep, Sarah. This is
Oh,
awesome.
man.
I've loved it. I'm going to take it away from being very, very deep. I saw something the other day about oatmeal porridge, right?
Yes.
Are you a fan of oatmeal? And if so, what's your winning oatmeal recipe?
Okay, so I am a big fan of porridge. And I like peanut butter and banana in it.
Nice.
And that's it.
Simple.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, like it. Is it a daily thing?
It is probably 2 to 3 times a week kind of thing. Yeah.
Love it.
It's good stuff.
I told you it was a random question, but
I love it.
Well, I've decided I'm going to get porridge news from everyone that I speak to over winter because it's part of many people's lives. Sarah, I think I've taken up enough of your time. It's been really, really brilliant to chat to you. Thank you so much, and best of luck. You've still got Austin 70.3 coming up, and then a little trip to the Caribbean Island House try as well.
Oh yes, my life's hard. Yeah, no, it's super awesome. I get to end my season in the Bahamas. Need I say more?
No. So
think about that when you're looking out the window and it's gray and raining. You're like, Sarah's in the Bahamas right now.
Stop it. Have a fantastic time, and
thanks, Helen.
Yeah, have a great off season, and then best of luck going into 2018 as well.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you what, Hels, I was sitting down earlier on listening to that as I was prepping for the podcast, and it actually made me stop what I was doing and sit and concentrate on the interview. I think it's such an incredibly brave thing to do, to open up about depressive illness like that, and I think the more people who do that, the more people who are open and honest about it, the less stigma there's going to be around people who suffer from depressive illness. I think it's just a fantastic interview.
Definitely. And like we were saying there, that if she can, if by Sarah talking about it can help one person, then that's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It really got me the point where she was talking about how everybody knows that, get out and get some exercise, get some fresh air. It's really good for you when you're going through a depressive episode. But the reality is you can't get yourself out of bed. And then you layer on top of that what it must be like to be a professional triathlete, and your job is not just to get out of bed and go for a walk around the park and get some fresh air, which is hard enough anyway, but to go out and train really hard. It's almost unbelievable that she's managed to manage it as well as she has, to operate at such an incredibly high level, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. Honestly, full of respect for Sarah, and just a massive thank you for being so open and honest.
Yeah, I think it's going to help a lot of people. Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, we've got a couple of other bits of news before we finish up today's Hells.
Yeah, so my favourite Norwegian, Christian Blumenfelt?
I do indeed.
So, who amazed everybody in the Super League Triathlon in Jersey and has just had a stellar season this year on the ITU circuit. So, Rob, he has tweeted a few photos, right, of maps of southern Spain. One of them was moving time of just under 10 hours on his bike, a distance of 275.5 kilometers.
Wow.
And another one was, so that was a day ago, and then the week before he had done 8.25 hours moving time, a distance of 230 odd kilometers. So one might maybe think that he's been putting a few miles in there.
Solid block.
And he's put a big Ironman 70.3 Middle East Championship Bahrain ? Sort of thumbs up. So he may well be heading to Bahrain. Am I reading into that? Who knows? And but that was just some mad miles. That was like a day on the Italy ride, Rob.
I was going to say, maybe he's taken a leaf from the Helen Murray Book of Holidays and he's actually just touring around all day, trying to find a pizza shop that's open still.
Yeah, exactly. The other one I wanted to mention, Rob, was congratulations to former under-23 world champion Matt Sharp. We mentioned him a couple of times recently because he did an awesome marathon debut, didn't he, at the London Marathon and he followed it up fairly recently with another swift run. Well, he came second at this weekend's Great South Run, just behind Chris Thompson. Yeah, so superb running. So that's interesting. And actually, Rob, just before we recorded this evening, I was chatting to Tom Bishop, the GB triathlete.
Ooh.
Yes. So here's a little spoiler for you.
Watch this space.
And, well, we will be hearing from Tom over the next few weeks. But when Mark Sharp won that World Under-23 title, Tom Bishop was also on the podium.
Oh.
As was David McNamee.
Well, look at that.
There you go. So I thought that was very, very interesting. And we will hear more about that in our interview with Tom Bishop over the next couple of weeks.
Great stuff. Well, I guess that just about brings us to the end of our show for this week, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Lovely to chat to you as always. And thanks for listening, everybody. You've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. And don't forget, get over to wearetribe.co to take advantage of the last chance to get yourself 6 goodies for £1 with the code OXYGEN1. All right, we'll see you again soon. See ya.